welcome to another Fun Film Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brownhead, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80, that's SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and Lakeena's going to be on the IG.
Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, too, you can catch up on other live shows that we have airing throughout the week. So, if you happen to miss, you can go back and watch them and listen to them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, please follow us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Please find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you subscribe it at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media Podcast, PODCASTS. That's War Media Podcast. We are available on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. So make sure you subscribe to our podcast. And speaking of War Media, why don't you go over and give them a follow at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, that's at War Media, WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up in the comments section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions and comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something stupid, I'm giving Lakeena full power to give you fools to be a lady boot. I love when she says that. But before we begin, we must remind you that Sports Zone Chicago you can catch now available on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku TV, we know you have a bunch of handheld devices laying around: iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your personal PC like Lakeena's using right now, like Chromebook like I'm using right now. Just go over to the Google Play Store and download that Roku TV app. Access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So you have no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anywhere, anytime you want.
And you know we can provide. Now I'll get the ex-boyfriend tribute. Okay. Excuse me for bringing humor into this show.
I laughed.
Speaking of humor, Lakeena, let's get this party started. As the NBA's 2022-2023 regular season is now over. Your Chicago Bulls finished the year, excuse me. Yeah, it's a big old choke. At 40-42, they ended the regular season on a 2-game winning streak. They defeated the quote-unquote depleted sin-ass Dallas Mavericks on Friday, and they won their regular season finale at home yesterday at the UCO with the Detroit Pistons, 103-81. Lakeena, there's nothing much to talk about with the Bulls over the weekend other than they did win their last 2 games. We got a chance to see some of the young guys like Dalen Terry and Simonovic. We saw extended playing time for Kobe White and Patrick Williams. Lakeena, before we'll get into the preview in that game, playing game on Wednesday at Toronto in just a couple of moments. But what else did you observe from the Bulls this last weekend?
I'll be honest. I was in Masters mode and in soccer mode, so I didn't watch the last couple of games. Although I did watch Friday night's game with the Mavericks. I mean that loss knocks the Mavericks out of playoff contention. So I guess what Tim Hardaway Jr. sad, Kyrie sad. So everybody else, kind of, sad. Also, same thing with the Bulls too. I mean, look, Zach, DeMar's sat out, Levine sat out, Vooch sat out. So it was really basically the young guys show, as you said. Vooch did play. He had a double as usual. P. Will had 23, which is a season high for him. Kobe White had 24, so he got some minutes. And so, Io had 12. So yeah, you saw a little bit of the young guys. Dalen Terry got some minutes. And such. So yes, you saw a little bit of some of the young guys there too, and they actually played really well. They were actually down But I think by made about 12 points heading into the third, but they were able to, come back and they ended up winning that game, knocking the Mavericks out of they might have been doing that intentionally, who knows? But it looked really good. Now, as far as the Detroit game from yesterday, again, I didn't watch a single minute of this one because we fear that most of the guys, yeah, they did. I mean, the three that I mentioned, Zach, DeMar, they played for a little bit, but it really was more for like the younger guys and such. So, and we all know that the Pistons, they weren't playing for nothing. So all their guys, all their main guys sat. So it really didn't mean anything. But yeah, I mean, look, tomorrow only played 24 minutes. Zach only played 26. So yeah, it is what it is. But I'm sure they're just gearing up for this game against Toronto on Wednesday. But yeah, I mean, look, you got to feel pretty good if you're a Bulls fan. I know some people were groaning about the fact that White had to make the play in, considering that all the teams around them, they struggled late. They were going to get in anyway. So I think whether it's, too bad they couldn't get up to the AC. Now they got to win 2 games or to make the main playoff draw. So could they do it? Sure. I mean, they're going to be facing a really tough Raptors team that has given them fits over the season. So it's going to this is where it kind of gets a little bit, teared off, if you will. But yeah, I mean, we'll get to that, after the break. But yeah, I'm a little cautiously optimistic that they can win 2 to get into the main playoff draw.
The question for the next few minutes for you Bulls fans out there on Sports on Chicago's Facebook page or Sports on Chicago on YouTube: how confident are you in this Bulls team heading towards Wednesday's game against the Toronto Raptors in the play-in? It's a 10-9 matchup. The game will take place north of the border. That's on Wednesday. As Lakeena said, we'll give you our breakdown after the break. Are you confident as a Bulls fan? Are you even going to watch this game, or are you just going to roll your eyes and say they're going to lose, which I expect them to? What is your meter right now? Is it in the red? Is it in the green? Or just somewhere stuck in the middle? We want to hear from you guys once again at Sports on Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports on Chicago on YouTube. Now, you can make a case either way, Lakeena. I'll stick with the positive side first. The way we talked about this for the last month, Lakeena, the way that Zach LaVine is playing right now, he is on the mission. He's being aggressive, more offensively, driving the ball to the basket, not just settling for that 18, 20-foot jumper. Kobe White has been playing well off the bench over these last few weeks. Patrick Williams, it looks like he's starting to get out of his own head, no pun intended. He's starting to be more aggressive, trusting more of his shot from the outside. Vucevic is still doing his thing in the paint, even though me personally, I think he should still get the ball more down the post. At least offensively, the Bulls can play with anybody in the league if they just stay on course for 48 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they definitely showed you that they can do that, especially when they can when they want to show up and stuff. I guess some people say do when they want to play. So I think that's sort of like the thing here. But yeah, I mean, look, do I think they got a shot against Toronto? Sure. I mean, look, it's a one and done scenario, so we don't really know how they're gonna react to such. We heard our girl Christine from KXRB, Christine Manica, even said, I mean, you gotta think that DeMar DeRozan is gonna feel like he's playing with a chip on his shoulder because of how he was treated as he was traded from Toronto. So, and of course, after that they end up to get Kawhi. And now, then since then, of course, they won the championship that season. So you got to feel like he's feeling a little bit, I don't want to say he has an axe to grind, but you got to feel like that maybe he kind of feels a little bit slighted there. It still feels a little bit slighted. I mean, he hasn't really said much about it, but you got to think that he wants to kind of give the people in Toronto a little bit of a show on Wednesday. But like I said, we'll get to all that in a second. But I think, look, we know Nick Nurse has probably one of the best basketball minds, in the NBA. So it's a little bit kind of disconcerting, to not give Toronto. But Toronto's been up and down too. They're kind of like similar in the Bulls in some respects. So they would be, they kind of, if you catch them on a bad day, I think they can kind of, the Bulls take advantage of it. But we'll see how much the Bulls wants to get into the playoff picture.
Yeah. On the flip side, I can make this case why the Bulls will not win. If Zach and or DeMar DeRozan has a bad shooting night, and as you mentioned, head coach Nick Nurse for Toronto, he could throw many multitudes of defenders at DeMar DeRozan, in particular OJ Anunoby and Scotty Barnes, the second-year guy out of Texas, at DeMar and or Zach. And will the other guys step up? You could have a bad shooting night for one of those guys. Also, you could have a bad shooting night for Kobe White as well. And let's be real here, Lakeena. This has been a problem for the last 2 years for the Bulls. Interior defense has been a problem, especially giving up too many damn offensive rebounds. If that happens on Wednesday, this team is in trouble. They're going home for the summer.
Well, but also too, I would say that I think various teams are giving you the formula how to beat Toronto. You saw that that matchup against the Lakers a little over a month ago. You saw how they were able, and
Mhm.
this is without LeBron, mind you. So they can, if you slow them down a little bit, kind of force them to sort of like have them have an off shooting night, have force Scotty Barnes to make shots that he's probably not comfortable making. See if they can if DeMar does get like double or triple team, hopefully that will make an opening for Io, for Zach, for Vooch and such. So like I said, it's really gonna, these are the type of games where it's really gonna depend on who wants it more. So I feel like this is sort of like a toss up, if you will, a toss up play-in, which is a lot of these play-ins are. You'll see if they can, if we can see that Bulls team we saw that beat the Grizzlies, if we saw that Bulls team, or we see that Bulls team that lost to Atlanta. So again, who they'll probably very likely play well, and because the other one is Miami and Atlanta. So Atlanta's kind of been up and down too. So yeah, I think this is sort of one of those games where it really is a toss up. I don't think no one can really predict what could happen in those play-ins. So it'll be interesting to see what they do here as you listen to Second City Sports and watch Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. Excuse me, Keenan McGee, Sydney Brown with you. Now, I think the key, I think for the play-in here, I think it's going to be, can the guys on the bench, give them a little bit of it, especially if, God forbid, DeMar has a rough start, if Zach has a rough start, Vooch has a tough start, Io has an off shooting night. We'll have to depend on, guys like Pat Bev or like, Andre Drummond or, Io to kind of be sort of pick up the slack, if you will. And even P will too, because we've seen P will can, be that too. So we saw him in the last few games, especially he was a big part of that comeback against the Grizzlies last Sunday. So it really is going to depend on it really is going to be a toss up here. And I think this is going to be kind of like where we'll see if the Bulls really want to make the playoff round.
Yeah, shout out to a couple guys checking in the chat on our Facebook page at Sports Zone Chicago. YouTube, I should say. Vernon Fairley, what's up? And Brandon Schultz, how are you? Good afternoon to you as well. You took one of the guys that I was going to focus on in Patrick Beverley. And I think he's going to be the key because he shuts guys down on the opposite side who's the biggest scoring threat. And we know that Pascal Siakam is a big scoring threat for Toronto. Scotty Barnes is right behind him. Don't forget Illinois' very young Fred VanVleet, who's had an off and on year due to injuries, but he's still a very good point guard in this league. So I'm looking for Patrick Beverley to have a big impact. Also, too, don't forget about Alex Caruso, who's on the tough on-ball defender. So I'm looking for those two guys to really set the tone.
Well, also, if you force Siakam into foul trouble, I think that's going to be the key. If you can kind of get him out of not be a factor early, if you can throw Scotty Barnes off, if Fred VanVleet, who somehow shoots like Kawhi, when he plays the Bulls, apparently, if you get him to kind of have an off shooting night too. So this is going to be like the key for me here is it's just going to be like one of those things where you wonder, like, okay, who's going to set the tone early? Who can kind of sort of like be that person that sort of like says, okay, you know what, I'm going to take the team on my back and I'm going to, do something here and get the shooting, started for the Bulls. I think that's going to be the real key here. Now we're going to take a really quick break. We're going to talk about the rest of the NBA and sort of all the weirdness that happened yesterday over the weekend. Yeah, some haymakers and someone broke his hand, fractured his hand, I should say, punching a wall, and a whole lot of weirdness happened. We'll preview a lot of the other playing games as well that'll be taking place in the next couple of days. So Lakeena McGee, Sydney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. More NBA talk coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver. I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Oh, sorry. Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Kingdom again on the Twitter and at Chaos Coming again on the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have a question or comment for us, you can always hit us up in the comment section on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Shout out to our guy, Mr. Brandon Schultz, is checking in again. And we just mentioned our Facebook page, Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook. That's once again Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, where you can find us as well. Lakeena, let's continue our NBA talk for this hour. As the regular season concluded yesterday, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they defeated the New Orleans Pelicans 113-108. But unfortunately, that's not the story. The story goes as this: Rudy Gobert has an argument with teammate Kyle Anderson. Kyle Anderson challenges him. Gobert said some things back. And then some punches were thrown. And then later in the game, Jay McDaniels was called for a hard foul, gets kicked out the game. In the process, going to the locker room, he breaks his hand. Ow! And now he's out for the play-in game tomorrow at the Lakers.
Right. Just so and LeBron's been playing well too the last couple of games for the Lakers. So, that was just a whole thing. That was just weird yesterday. Like I said, I didn't watch any of the NBA games yesterday. So, I was in Masters mode, and also there was some soccer games that were on too. So I really wasn't paying attention to the NBA that much. But when I saw the fight, I was like, "Wait, wow, really? That's a hell of a way to." After everything Minnesota's been through, losing Karl Anthony Towns, they were to claw their way back into the play-in. Now, this whole thing between Gobert and Anderson. Now Daniels, he's going to be out. So McDaniels, I should say, he's going to be out. So yeah, it's really just sort of like, why would you do that? I mean, that's not really like the smartest thing to do. So I'm just like, yeah, if you're, it's just, the T-Wolves, like I said, I mean, you go through all that, you try to, get to the play, but then, you have teammates fight, you got one that breaks his hand. And, it's just one of those things. You're kind of just like, if you're Chris Fincher, you're thinking like, okay, what the hell just happened here? And he was right there too, in the middle of that scuffle between Gobert and Anderson. So I'm wondering like how he feels about all this, because it is just like, wow, really, this all this happens. But It'll be interesting what their mindset's going to be, especially when they play the Lakers. The Lakers are playing. They've been playing well. LeBron's been getting better and better, and it's just like wow. That's not the time you want to play the Lakers, but especially when your team's in disarray. So, gosh.
Yeah, shout out to our guy Brandon Schultz once again via the YouTube. He said he had some good news of the Houston Rockets. They won, and unfortunately, Steven Silas, who lost his father, the Hall of Fame, the late great Paul Silas, early this year. Steven Silas gets the boot from the Rockets yesterday as he was fired as a head coach of the Rockets. So the Rockets will be looking for a new head man of this offseason. But getting back to the Lakers, Lakeena, LeBron James, you mentioned, he had a great game yesterday. He had a career high 8 3-pointers as the Lakers beat the Utah Jazz 128-117. As you mentioned, he's been playing very well these last few weeks, even though he's technically still has that injured foot. He's been mobile enough to be effective for the Lakers. And Anthony Davis, once again, he had a good game yesterday, 16 points and 13 rebounds.
Yeah, what you want. That's what you want, especially heading to this play-in. So, you thought they lost their chance of perhaps maybe get into that 5 seed. They could have gotten a 5 seed, but or even the 6. But I guess they probably say we'll take our chance with the play-in. So, with them playing the T-Wolves tomorrow, I think that's they got to travel cross country. I talk about the T-Wolves. They get all the stuff that's been going on, especially with McDaniels, fracturing his hand, and now Gobert probably very likely won't play. So all this is sort of like kind of manifest, and hopefully the Lakers can take advantage of that.
Yeah, the Lakers mentioned have been hot. All systems are go for the Lakers. We mentioned also their role players have been stepping up very well. Jerry Vanderbilt, Mr. Austin Reeves, as Lakeena has dubbed my guy this year. I guess I'll take it. Austin Reeves, he's been playing very well. Also, too, Dennis Schroeder, who's been on the second since the second half of the year, and also too, you have D'Angelo Russell, who's been battling injuries, but he's shown some signs in spots where he's been healthy. So this is the best since that 2020 team that LeBron James has had talent rise around him. So assuming that they beat Minnesota tomorrow, which they should, they will match up, I believe, against the Memphis Grizzlies in that 3-6 matchup. No, not the 3-6, the 2-7 matchup in the Western Conference playoffs. And if the Lakers can stay healthy, it's not a slam dunk that the Memphis Grizzlies can beat the Lakers. Can they beat the Lakers? Sure, but it's not as easy as a slam dunk as people want to make it out to be.
Yeah, they've won a couple of games against the Lakers this year, so it's not like they haven't beaten them. So they could probably do this. Like Jon Rahm, as long as he stays out of trouble, I think the team will be fine. But I think you're getting the Lakers. You're catching them at a good spot. So this is going to be kind of it. Should they make it? Because they only got to win one to get into the main playoff draw. So with the Lakers, I think if they they should be the T-Wolves, and they should beat them pretty handily. Let's getting them in against that the Grizzlies. Like, this could be. I would be surprised. I mean, they have a shot, to take the series. So again, we'll see. Like I said, yes, LeBron is 100%, but I also take my chance with LeBron at 100%. So especially with a lot of the playoff experience he has, and this is probably the best supporting cast he's had since that COVID year when they won the championship in the bubble. So it's going to be interesting to see if assuming they do make the they do make the main draw, being the T-Wolves tomorrow. We'll see what happens there. Now, going back to the East, and since we already did the Bulls, Raptors, we're going to talk about the game. The other playing game is going to be tomorrow, and that's Atlanta and Miami. I think Atlanta's coming up and down, especially since Quinn Snyder came mid-season, about a third of the season left. The Heat's starting to get hot a little bit. I mean, you don't really know what you're going to get. I mean, you may get the good Jimmy Butler. You make it the good Tyler Hero. You make it. A couple of other guys that are pretty good too. So it's like I said, I mean, from Miami, I think they shouldn't have any trouble with Atlanta because they played Atlanta close. Atlanta's played them close a few times this year, but I think especially with their I know they lost the Wizards, but they set a lot of their guys out. I'm a little concerned, about how you're gonna get it. I mean, I know, it's gonna be very interesting to see what Heat team you're gonna get tomorrow.
It's going to be about the supporting cast members, Lakeena, for the Hawks and the Heat tomorrow. As you mentioned, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, they're going to do their thing. But it's all about Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Gabe Vincent, and whoever else decides to show up for the Miami Heat. Who's going to be that third guy to carry Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo home? And you can find that guy early, right at the hot hand. And that should do it for Miami. They're better than the Atlanta Hawks, as you mentioned. Trae Young, he cannot play a lick of defense. He never could. He can score and pass with the best of them, but as far as defensively, he doesn't have it. Now, John Collins, we'll see what he can do for the Hawks tomorrow as he's trying to be that supporting guy for Trae Young. Dejounte Murray, you had to look at him. Remember, he was acquired via trade last summer. Of course, Bogdanovic, he had a big game against the Bulls last week in that upset win here in Chicago. So I'm looking for the supporting cast mates for both teams. Who's going to step up the most?
Right, I think that's going to be the thing, like you said. I mean, look, we'll see with John Collins. I know he's been banged up, so we'll see if he'll be even be able to play tomorrow. So that's something to look out for as well. There, I mean, Clint Capella. I know we know he's been around. He's like he's been around big playoff games, so he probably knows what to do with such. But yeah, it's going to be one of those things. It really is going to be like which Miami team you're going to get after Butler and Bam, who you guys going to get to kind of like be that person to step up? Could we get a Duncan Robinson, a hero, or somebody else of that ilk? So it's going to be interesting to see with this game, like which of those supporting cast can they be kind of like pick up the slack, especially if Bam and Jimmy still struggle.
Yeah, and that's what's going to come down to. Who's going to step up the most? It's going to come down to intangibles as well. Who's gonna grab the most rebounds, and who's going to have the better chances at scoring? And I think the Miami Heat could do that. We know that when they're locked in, they're one of the best defensive teams in the league, and you have to give head coach Eric Spoelstra credit for that for Miami. But I don't think Atlanta has it all around. Miami is at home now. Miami better not catch themselves sleepwalking on the court. But I think Miami's a better team, and they have a better overall roster, and they play a better style than Atlanta. So I'm looking for Miami to win. I know they're favored by 5 points, but Miami should win comfortably if they come in focused and not sleepwalking.
Yeah, hopefully, I'm sure Eric. This is his first. We know this is his first rodeo, so I'm sure he knows what to do and what not to get his guys ready and get his guys motivated to play. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, the other game on
real quick, Lakeena, not to interrupt, Lakeena, but real quick, did you check out the highlights yesterday from their regular season finale? I believe it was against Orlando. Udonis Haslem hit a 3-pointer. I think it was his first of his career, and they gave him a rocking chair. First of all, everybody stood up and gave him a standing ovation afterwards. He's just as old as we are. Making that for what it's worth, but he hit his first 3-pointer yesterday in the first quarter. Then after the game, they gave him all the gifts in a rocking chair because this is last year before he calls it quits. He's been a staple down there for the last 20 plus years or so. I thought that was a cool moment for the Miami Heat organization to do yesterday.
And you know what? It was one of those sort of like, he was a big part of the first couple of championships. Maybe not the last one, but definitely the first couple of championships for Miami. He was definitely kind of in that. He was sort of like he was a 6th to 7th guy off the bench, but he kind of sort of been been there over the years. We'll see what he does after his career and such. But yeah, I think I remember him when he was all the way back when he was at Florida. I'm talking about at University of Florida. I remember how far back I have with Haslem. He's had a great career. I'm sure he'll get into the Basketball Hall of Fame. May have to wait a few years, but it's sort of one of those things where you're kind of like, you kind of, makes you feel bad. I know D Wade was there to congratulate him and some of the other. I think Bosch was there too, or they did a video tribute from Chris Bosch. So it was really a sweet moment. So yeah, it was a really cool moment there. So now we can get back to the other Wednesday match, the late game after the Bulls Raptors playing. Yeah, OKC against the Pelicans. This could probably be, you got the young, upstart OKC Thunder, you got the more like seasoned Pelicans who kind of came out of nowhere last year and, went, far and such. But to me, this is going to be, they've had their matchups, especially in the last few weeks. For me, I think, with the Thunder and then the Pelicans, it's really going to depend on this could be first 130. We know the Pelicans can play defense. But I think the Thunder could be one of those teams, because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you got Josh Giddey. Could those guys kind of try to slow down the Brendan Ingrams, the CJ McCollums, and such? That's going to be a tough task for the Thunder. But look, that youth and that kind of that exuberance is sort of that that fire. That could probably be the thing that kind of helps them pull off the upset here.
Yeah, you mentioned tempo. That's going to be the main key in this game. But I think the experience of the New Orleans Pelicans, as we talked about Lakeena before, last year, they won both their playing games to qualify for the playoffs. They took the Phoenix Suns to 6 games, even though Devin Booker and Chris Paul were injured at the time. But still, they did it without Zion Williamson. It looks like they ought to do it again without him this year. But I think that experience is going to carry the Pelicans through. You mentioned Brandon Ingram's been injured for most of the year. He's been catching fire the last couple of weeks. CJ McCollum, same thing. He's starting to catch fire now. Don't forget about Troy Murphy III. He's been in a supporting cast as well. So New Orleans has been on a tear quietly over these last few weeks. Give head coach Willie Green credit for it. He got the guys motivated and got the most out of them last year. He's going to have to do it again this year. On the flip side for OKC, you mentioned Josh Giddey and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, first-time All-Star. Those two will have to lead the way for this young group. But the question is, when New Orleans makes their runs, can those two stop and shift the momentum from their side to OKC side? Because it's definitely going to be tough on the road for this young OKC Thunder squad.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, kind of like a nice little experience there because they're kind of like a year ahead schedule too. But I'm sure they're gonna want to stay around for a little bit. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they do the response. Because for a lot of these guys, it's gonna be their first time in the playoff, quote unquote. So that's gonna be sort of like the thing here. And for this game, I'm looking to see like who can they we know the Thunder they don't play defense well. So can they slow down the Pelicans? That's gonna be kind of like it. That's gonna be a big ask for them. But look, you never know. I mean, look, Shai could get hot. Giddy could get hot. Other couple of the other young guys could get hot. So can we get can CJ McCollum kind of and the Pelicans kind of set the tone early? To me, that's gonna be like the number one question there because they have the experience now. They're gonna be dealing with they're no longer they're the hunted now. So you're gonna be dealing with a team that is the hunters. So it's going to be easy to see. Like, will it be the more, seasoned experience Pelicans, or will it be kind of like the upstart Thunder? This should be an interesting one.
Yeah, if I have to pick, Lakeena, I will go with the Pelicans in a close one.
I think so too. I mean, look, I think if Ingram kind of set the tone early too. If we see the hot shooting from Ingram that we've seen the last few weeks, I can kind of see them setting the tone early. But again, also too, I mean, look, they can catch fire too. I'm talking about the Thunder, so that's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
And I wanted to get our picks for the other games for Tuesday. As far as the Hawks and the Heat are concerned, I'm taking Miami, and then of course I'm taking the Lakers over the Timberwolves.
Same. I got both of them too, but I think it's gonna be. I think I don't think it'll be close either. On the Wednesday, I would say the Bulls, just because I think like our girl Christine said, I think Pat Bev's gonna get into DeMar's head and say, look, this is your shot to kind of leave your mark in Toronto to kind of like end their playoff chances. So I think that's going to be the key for the Bulls, and they'll play Atlanta. They'll have to play Atlanta on Friday. Now, as far as the OKC New Orleans, I think the Pelicans will win, but it's going to be a lot closer than people think.
I'll be the Grinch that stole Christmas. I'm going with Toronto over Chicago. I hope I'm wrong, but I won't be surprised. But like you said, Lakeena, as far as the Bulls Raptors game is concerned, you mentioned Patrick Beverley and Alex Caruso, those leaders that don't get much headlines. They're going to be the key as well to see if you can get those other guys going. But like I said before in the last half hour, it's going to be up to Zach and DeMar to lead this team. And one of them has the best shooting night. Who else is going to step up? Will it be Kobe White, Patrick Williams, Nikolai Vucevic? Especially if he's in the post, he has the advantage. Give him the damn ball.
Yep, exactly. So hopefully the Bulls will do just that. And of course, for a lot of these guys, it's going to be this isn't going to be their first time. So we'll see what happens there. And those is your preview for the NBA, playing and such. Of course, we're gonna have a big surprise for you guys come out at the end of the show. So you got to tune in at the end to see what happens. As this is Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. Lakeena McGee, Sydney Brown with you now. Sid, we didn't get a chance to talk about this because I know this news came out during the Final Four weekend, but the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame inductees were announced for 2023, and I think look, there's really no big shockers here. Of course, some of the guys that are leading the class. You got Pau Gasol, Dirk Nowitzki, Tony Parker, Great Popovich. You got of course Becky Hammond, who's made had a great career both internationally, and of course now she's coaching in WNBA. Jane Cade, the Hall of Fame head coach from Purdue. Of course, we talked about D Wade as well. You can't forget about him. Sorry, D Wade. Of course, Popovich and some of the they lead the class and such. So no big shockers here, Sid. But you look at some of the accomplishments of all the players that I've mentioned, the coaches too. But just a great class, and I'm looking forward to this speech because that Pop will probably have everybody laughing. He'll be his usual sarcastic self, and but just see who presents who. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I'll be honest with you. It's nice for Greg Popovich to get his flowers while he's still coaching, while he's still alive. Obviously, no pun intended. But I know many people talk about the Spurs' success. He had 5 titles in that 25-year span, which is not easy. I know many people won't call that a quote-unquote dicing. I know many people had a problem with his style of play, which I did in the beginning of his coaching career. But it worked the way the league was at that time. But 5 championships in that 20 to 25-year span, that's nothing to sneeze at. You had 3 to 4 5 Hall of Famers on your team at one time. You mentioned Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker. So you had such great superstars, and you had great role players as well to help to contribute to some of those championships during that time, like Boris Diaw and Robert Horry and Michael Finley, Chicago's very own, and others. So it's nothing for Greg Popovich to sneeze at. I think, does he have a Culture of the Year award, Lakeena? Because a long time he was ignored for not getting one.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I gotta look that up real quick, but I'm not sure. But let me check that out. But yeah, I mean, it is crazy that unfortunately, yeah, I mean, his style, like you said, his style worked for that part of the NBA, especially so at the time because it was kind of a transition at the time. So I don't see. Yeah, I don't see it. I don't think he ever won Coach of the Year. I don't think. But of course, you look there. You got 5 titles. Of course, you're the first 99 with in Tim Duncan's early years. Also, too, the Amber finally got his first title 03, 05, 07, and of course 2014 with Kawhi and them. And it's gonna be interesting. I mean, I think he feel like he does get his due. I feel like he's finally getting his flowers. Like I said, I'm sure he's gonna go all in. He might say some swear words too. So please, be prepared, folks. But I'm looking forward to hear his speech. I know D Wade. It'll be interesting who he presents with. I know he and Shaq have still been very close, so he might pick Shaq to represent him. Won 3 titles, of course, 13-time All-Star, 8-time All-NBA. Just a great career and such, of course, with the Heat and the Bulls, and he even played for the Cavs for those last year, but the last year of his career. I know people will forget that, but really just a great career. Of course, Tony Parker, 6-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA. Won 4 NBA titles. Of course, he was there for 03, 05, and 07, and of course 2014. 2, Dirk, of course, 14-time All-Star, 12-time All-NBA. 07 won MVP. Won, of course, the 2011 championship with the Mavs, of course. Going to the college side, of course, Gene Katie and the comb over. He still has that comb over. Won 5 games in 27 seasons. Of course, I was going to say, of course, at Purdue. Won the National Coach of the Year 6 times in 84, 88, 94, 95 with your big dog, 96 and 2000. Becky Hammond, of course, all the great season that she had, with the WNBA, of course, with this Liberty and the Stars, 6-time All-Star, named to the WNBA's anniversary team. Just a great career there. Pau Gasol, 6-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA. Won titles with the Lakers in 09 and 2010. And those are kind of like the main folks, but just a really great great class. Like I usually use with the Basketball Hall of Fame. I know some people say, oh, everyone gets in, but I mean, look, that's you cover all the gambits too. You cover everything with the Basketball Hall of Fame, so it is what it is.
Yeah, and also too, don't forget about it's not, I repeat, not the NBA Hall of Fame, it's the Basketball Hall of Fame, because it includes some of your high school, but mostly your college, your pro, and your international careers as well. So that's the main criteria. Pau Gasol, he was the first star drafted when the Grizzlies moved from Vancouver to Memphis before the 2001-2002 season. Of course, he helped put that team on the map. And he helped the late great Kobe Bryant get his last 2 rings when he was traded to the Lakers in February of 08. And so he played in 3 NBA finals, won 2 of them. And Kobe Bryant challenged Pau Gasol because remember, he got outplayed by Garnett in the 08 series. He came back in 09, dominated Dwight Howard, Rashard Lewis, and that Orlando Magic. It should have been the Cavs, but that's a whole nother issue. But Pau dominated the front line of Orlando in that series, of course, in 2010. It was an ugly, scrappy series with the Lakers, but he came up big as well, along with Ron Artest, now Meta World Peace, in that series, especially in Game 7 when Kobe didn't have a great shooting game. But Pau Gasol had a great career. He had some great moments here with the Bulls, even though that was toward the end of the Derrick Rose, Tom Thibodeau era, and Jimmy Butler was starting to become a star of his own. He did some nice things here, too. So Pau Gasol, one of those versatile big men, in the game. He had a great outside touch from the wing. He dominated inside, but he was very good defensively too.
Yeah, he was. And I don't think people give him credit for his defense because I think he was probably one of the best defensive guys. I think he was an all defense too a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken. So, had a great career, of course, with the Grizzlies, the Lakers, the Spurs, the Bulls, of course, and the Bucks. Going into Dirk, of course, 20 points kind of help build up the Mavs, kind of like get into that next level. Of course, in 2011 with the championship with the Mavericks, of course, they beat the Heat. It's going to be interesting. We saw how he felt afterwards. He couldn't really contain himself. He had to kind of like take a breath because he didn't think that it would happen. If you saw his reaction after that 2011 chip, and because I remember it very well, he didn't think that moment was going to happen for him. So that's why he kind of had to take a step back and sort of say, kind of like taking the moment because he didn't think that would happen for him. But yeah, all 12-time All NBA. Of course, he won the NBA final, the NBA MVP in 07 too. So. Great career for Dirk. Great that he's getting his due finally. Of course, Tony Parker, another part of that, Spurs gang, if you will. Won 4 titles. Of course, 6-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA selection. Just a great career for him. And I know now you got that whole core. You got because Duncan's there. Manu got in last year. Of course, Duncan got in a couple of years ago during the COVID year. But they're all there now. Of course, he and Pop's gonna be interesting. Do they walk together? Do they like it's gonna be?
That would be pretty cool if that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be interesting to see how that goes. Now, of course, D Wade, 13-time All-Star, 8-time All-NBA, won 3 titles and such. Of course, 06, 2012, and 2013. He was sort of like that Renaissance guy because with Miami, of course, Shaq, got in after that, the falling out with Kobe. Came to Miami. This was basically D Wade's team, and he said, "Look, you're my big brother. I'm gonna help. We're gonna help each other." And of course, they ended up winning in 06. Of course, you went 2 more, of course, with LeBron and Chris Bosh. So just an all-in-all great player and such. He's also been a great ambassador for the game, both in the NBA and the WNBA. So it's really cool that he's getting his due too.
Yeah, as you mentioned, all in all, a great class going into the Basketball Hall of Fame this year. They'll be enshrined later on this year. Dirk Nowitzki, you could say he's the best foreign big man of all time. He's 6'11" and a half. He was a power forward, but he had a small forward's game. You could say he's a foreign version of Larry Bird. And as you mentioned, Lakeena, I remember that moment very well after the Game 6 of the 2011 NBA Finals. Remember, 5 years before, that Dallas Mavericks team had Miami down 2-0, and they lost the next 4 games to blow that title. If it wasn't for that, Dirk Nowitzki could have 2 rings instead of 1 right now. And so that's why he reacted the way he did. Now, Dwayne Wade, I thought he could have added a 3-point shot to his game. He would have been more unstoppable, but he was the poor man's version of Allen Iverson. Remember, he took a lot of knocks, especially early in his career, because his game was penetrating, going down into the lane and dunking on folks. And you saw those entries starting to pile up toward the end of their run with LeBron and Bosh, but he was still very effective during the last few years of his career. He was probably the 3rd best shooting guard during his time playing in the NBA, so he deserved going into the Hall of Fame. And Tony Parker, 07 MVP. Remember, LeBron James was starting to grow his resume back then. He wasn't there yet, but he was just starting. Of course, the Spurs were in the middle of that run back then with those veteran guys. And Tony Parker was before Chris Paul, and Jason Kidd was starting to come to the end of his career before he got his first ring a few years later. Tony Parker at that time was considered, if not the best, one of the best point guards in the NBA.
Yeah, I feel like he kind of like is sort of right there with that top forwards of all time because he was kind of like that. He wasn't a big guy like it was where you couldn't do on the inside, but he could go inside and out. So I think that's definitely kind of like he was. Look, his shooting was a big part of why the Spurs was many times they did during that tenure because of his shooting. Of course, Duncan took care of the inside. Manu took care of the interior, the exterior around, and then I guess Parker was kind of like in between, and of course they had to get the coach. So of course you had Pop. So yeah, I think for me, I think that particular part is what made the Spurs. Yes, it was kind of boring to watch, and there was a little bit. It was an acquired taste. But look, they won title because of it, so it worked. Now I want to talk about GK first before we go to break. Here, I should say, one of the names, but I remember that '88 team at Purdue with the late great Roy Marble, that was a team that probably could have easily went to the Final Four, because I think that's how good that team was. Same thing with those mid-90s teams with Glenn Big Dog Robinson and Quanzo Martin and that group. It sort of felt like, they were kind of like at the cusp, but they never were able to get to that finish line. That's still happening there, unfortunately, with Matt Painter now. But unfortunately, but yeah, I think I feel like he's finally getting his due now. I think he looks fantastic. Like I say, still got the comb over. It's gray now, but he's
the homosexual comb over.
yeah, of course. So we'll see that the Hall of Fame. I know he's gonna be very he's gonna enjoy the moment and such. So I'm looking forward to his speech. So yeah, it's gonna be it should be a great class, as it usually is. Of course, I know Becky Hammond with everything she's done with the game. Of course, she assistant coaching for a few years with the Spurs. Again, the theme here with the Spurs.
Yes.
But of course now she's a WNBA coach now. But yeah, it's gonna be a great class nonetheless. So it should be fun too.
Yeah, don't forget he had Gene K had those great teams in the late 90s and early 2000s. Remember Brian Cardinal?
Yeah.
He didn't pay off in the NBA, but he got him in there.
Yeah, he got him in there. Yeah, so yeah, he played for a little bit. So he's part of that 2000 squad, of course. With Katie won his last Naismith Coach of the Year in 2000. So yeah, I remember those are Brian Cardinal and some of those other guys on that team. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what he does. I'm sure a lot of those guys will be there. I'm sure we'll see Glenn Big Dog Robinson, Quanzo Martin, all those guys. I'm sure all these players probably gonna have their former coaches and such. So I know Tom Crean's gonna be there for D-Wade, of course, his college coach over at Marquette. Yeah, so I'm sure they're all going to be there. I know Doug is probably going to be there too, because both his another one of his teams and his coach is going to be there too. I'm sure he might be presenting one of them. Who knows? But both of them too. So who knows? But should be a fun one later this summer.
Yes, can't wait.
All right, we're going to take a real quick break. Hour number 1, the books. Hour number 2 coming up. Of course, we got baseball, the Sox. Although Kopech had a nice bounce back against the Pirates yesterday, so that's a plus. The Rangers, the Rangers kept the Cubs getting the sweep. Darn it! But they still win the series over the Cubs nonetheless. Some interesting things happening too with the MLB too. Also, we're going to talk some Masters. Also old school TV Monday and of course OBJ, going to the Ravens. That wasn't me for Lamar. So a lot to do still coming up next. Lakeena McGee, right? We'll ponder that. You guys can ponder that. Lakeena McGee, Sydney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. Hour number 2 coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the
Welcome back to album number 2 of Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We are live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, in the IG, in the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keita McGee on the Twitter and at Keita McGee on the IG.
We have less than 55 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you want to hit us up in the comments section, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Typing in questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. All right, Lakeena, let's do that baseball. As we'll talk about our local teams first, we'll get my White Sox out of the way. They're starting a series against the Minnesota Twins at Target Field as we speak. It's Cease Day. Dylan Cease will take the hill against Ken Maeda of the Twins. We'll get into that later. But over the weekend, Lakeena, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are 6-3 on the year. They lose one of their big young stars. We'll talk about that and coming up. Lakeena, I was encouraged and discouraged at the same time. Discouraged, Lucas Giolito.
Yeah, that was not a good start.
You're playing for a contract. I know you're not going to have no hitter stuff in every start. That's not going to happen. But the way you started off the season has been terrible. He needs to turn it around. What I'm encouraged about is what we saw, is particularly on Saturday. Even though the power hasn't come yet via the home run, I know Johan Makana has a couple. Oscar Colas, congratulations to him last Friday for hitting his first career home run in the loss against Pittsburgh. It looks like he's going to be a good one in the outfield for the White Sox. He may be an AL Rookie of the Year candidate. But back to what happened on Saturday. You put up 11 runs. Now one has been a home run. It all got started with Tim Anderson. When Tim Anderson has a multi-hit game, the White Sox are nearly unbeatable. Luis Robert Jr., who had the day off yesterday, he's been swinging the bat well. He looks like he's healthier now than he's been over the last year or so. Andrew Benintendi, the bat has been slowing down a little bit, but he's been giving you great defense, which I like to see. Gavin Sheets has been coming through, Lakeena, and you play him 2 to 3 times a week. I think you're going to get some good production out of him. Michael Kopech, as you mentioned before the break, he had a great game yesterday. It's just like the offense, unfortunately, did not come through. And so it's kind of a mixed bag for the White Sox. I know they're 4-6 right now. They should be in 6-4 to tell you the truth. But that starting pitcher for the White Sox, I'm not going to jump off the bridge just yet, but it's concerning me, minus Dylan Cease. I'll be honest with you. Minus Dylan Cease, and I'll give a surprise name if you pay attention closely, who had the win on Saturday. Mike Clevenger.
Right, yeah, I mean, Clevenger of all people, had that win on Saturday. I mean, not that loss, but yeah. I mean, look, it's sort of one of those things where you kind of like, they lose the series. Although Clevenger kind of had to bounce back after a slow start he had. That Friday game was a little bit weird because they were up. I think the Pirates took a lead first, and the Sox came back, but then the Sox took a lead, and then the Pirates tied it, and then like all types of all heck broke loose after that, but. Giolito, that's not a good showing by him. So hopefully this is just, we can kind of get the kinks out and whatnot. Now, as far as that Sunday matchup, I mean, look, they didn't, the Sox, the bats were ice cold, but, they actually out hit the Pirates 6-2 yesterday in that rubber match. But, look, I think Michael Kopech, definitely bounced back from that last start, the start prior, but, it is what it is with that one. But, yeah, I think you got to be encouraged if you're a Sox fan regardless, even though, you didn't win that game. But, at least like Kopech, hopefully that disaster start he had against Houston was an anomaly. But, we'll see what happens with that. But, going into this series against Minnesota, well, look, I mean, Bucks
quickly, Kim, before we go to that series against Minnesota, what did you think about that play in the 6th inning yesterday? Sevy Zavala tagging out O'Neal Cruz, who's going to be out a while with that ankle injury. Carlos Santana, Pittsburgh, kind of older than both benches clear, but thank goodness nothing too much came of it afterwards.
Yeah, they just kind of like did the stairs stuff. There was no fighting, there was no punishment. Everybody saying their size of the dugout. Now, as far as that, I mean, look, remember they changed the rule where they can't make contact with the catcher, so he had to kind of just go toward this way. Of course, unfortunately, he I think he fractured not his foot, but it was something that his
ankle.
leg,
Yeah.
So his ankle, so he's going to be gone for a while. Now, unfortunately, you're probably going to see more and more of that, unfortunately, because runners got to figure out how they're going to be able to do it without having to make contact with the catcher. That's going to be another adjustment that they're going to have to make. In this case, unfortunately, it's sort of a physical thing. Unfortunately, one of the Pirates' top guys, young stars, kind of one of the reasons where you want to go see Pittsburgh, the Pirates over at PNC. Unfortunately, this is kind of like what happens here, but he's going to be gone for a few weeks. So yeah, it's unfortunate that in that realm, where hopefully we don't see more of that, but I'm afraid we might. But we'll just see what happens with that. Now going to this series against the Pirates, I guess what Buxton isn't playing today. Byron Buxton isn't playing, who's been a Sox killer for the Twins. Also, Correa, I think, is out for I don't know if it's just going to be for this game, but I don't know if it's just for the series, or I don't know if it's just going to be for this game. He has lower back issues, so got this going on right now. They just started, so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in this, because we know that this is one of the reasons why the Sox were able to make the playoffs last year, because they couldn't beat the teams in their division. We're going to see if they could that changes, but again, of course, I know Chuck Garfien makes a big deal about, Buxton's out, Correa's going to be out for, I don't know if it's just for this game, but I don't know if it's just for the series, or just for this game, but yeah, we'll see. Let's see if they can kind of make the set the tone here, but we'll see what happens.
My two key elements in this series, factors in this series for the Sox are this: it starts with Tim Anderson. He did not get a hit yesterday. He has to get on base. If you notice, especially with these new rule changes we've been telling you guys about for the last month or so, the stolen bases have been up across the league, and including our White Sox. Yes, the White Sox are stealing bases, folks, as you saw over the weekend against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Tim Anderson has been leading the charge in the stolen base department. Tim Anderson has to find his way to get on. We know he's an aggressive leadoff hitter, and when he gets on, he's very aggressive in the base pass. Like I said, he's done that so far this year. I expect them to do that in this series. And number two, I'm focusing on Lance Lynn and Lucas Giolito. They'll pitch the next two games in this series after Dylan Cease does what I think he'll do today. It's all about the fundamentals, catching the ball and fielding. The Sox, they've been kind of up and down defensively, even though they've been okay, but they had an error in the game on Friday. But I expect them to play defense. You got to play smart, because Minnesota's a smart team. And when you make a mistake, teams like that will make you pay. So the Sox have to play clean defense, and they got to get some runs consistently across home plate. What I saw on Saturday, if that team could do that consistently throughout the year, the Sox will be in better shape. Now, what we saw yesterday, sometimes you got to tip your cap to the other team, and that's what happened yesterday. The Sox, as you mentioned, out-hit Pittsburgh yesterday. They just couldn't get the players across home plate. So I'm looking at Tim Anderson, and I'm looking at Lance Lynn and Lucas Giolito. If those three players step up the way that we expect them to, the White Sox should at least take 2 out of 3. Selfishly, I want to sweep. I don't think that's going to happen, but the White Sox realistically still should take 2 out of 3, despite Minnesota's strong start this year.
We'll see what happens with that series. I'll go into the north side. I got the Cubs and the Rangers. The Cubs beat the Rangers 2 out of 3. That first game on Friday, Marcus Stroman, another gem there. 6 shutout innings. They 2-0 there. Also, Cody Bellinger again had the go-ahead single that helped the Cubs beat them on that game. Stroman looks really good. He had 2 hits, struck out 6 and walked only 3. This was his 200th career start. So, look, I'm not going to sit here to say he's going to be the NL Cy Young, winner. I'm not going to say that, but
he took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that, but look, again, if he can kind of keep it up, we saw this early Stroman last year, so hopefully he can keep it up. Now, Saturday's game, 10-3. I mean, they need a little bit of it. Patrick Wisdom had a couple of big hits, and they kind of, Justice Steele has some big hits too. So Dave Ross kind of mixes up a little bit. So this might be the one time where Cubs fans don't want to come at him with the lineup. But Trayman City had 3 of the Cubs' 14 hits on Saturday. Yeah, so this is good. You want to choose from your top guys, of course. Dansby Swanson had an RBI. Madrigal, your former guy, he had 2 hits as well. So
He made a dumb play yesterday, but we'll leave that alone.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I want to talk about that. Yeah, it wasn't the best play, but the game was already out of hand by that point with that Rangers eighth coast. Unfortunately, they didn't sweep them. But you take 2 out of 3 against the Rangers team that some people thought that maybe could break through and perhaps maybe compete for a playoff spot. You're kind of in the same spot, so you'll take a 2 out of 3 against the Rangers if you're the Cubs. So look, no one knows what's going to happen this year. We're not going to expect them. No one's expecting them to compete in the National League Central, but they could kind of be right there in that playoff wild card chase. And so far, they've been doing just that.
It looks like so far this year for the Cubs, they are identity going forward for this year until the offense comes around is strong starting pitching in defense. And so far, they've been taking advantage of it despite not sweeping the Rangers yesterday. They've been doing it for the most part this year. Like I said, Marcus Stroman heads that group in the starting rotation. I know Kyle Hendricks is out, but Marcus Stroman is taking that load to carry the starting staff for the Cubs right now. So he's doing a great job. I believe he's 2-0 on the year. I got a chance to watch the Rangers broadcast on Bally Sports Southwest yesterday for that series finale. And they had a stat up before the Cubs lost yesterday. During the Cubs 3-game winning streak, they had 3 home runs, 10 RBI, and 12 walks. So the Cubs were very patient at the plate, and they took advantage of guys on base, unlike the Southsiders, but the Cubs were able to get them on, but get them across home plate. Just like the Sox, the Cubs don't have a lot of power in their lineup outside of Patrick Wisdom, or AKA Pete Will, as our guy Eugene Magachach from the Bigs will call him. But the Cubs do not have many power hitters in their lineup right now outside of Patrick Wisdom, but they're taking advantage of the opportunities. You mentioned the other guys like Cody Bellinger and Trey Mancini, Eric Hosmer, and Dansby Swanson, who's still swinging a high stick. Those guys are coming through in key situations, and that's what you need as this team continues to gain confidence and gain a new identity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's going to be kind of like the key here. Look, they're not playing, they're not swinging the ball out the park. They're doing like the little things. They're actually doing the small ball thing, which has actually helped them so far. So, this is not, the last couple of years has been sort of like, all or nothing, but it seems like now they're kind of taking a newer, these hitters are taking a newer approach, especially when you guys have guys like, Swanson and Bellinger and also Trey Mancini, who kind of do the whole, the small ball, go for the RBI, you go for the single or the double and not, just go all out for the home run. So we're seeing that so far. They play the Mariners, so I'm in a tough spot too. They play the Mariners for the first couple of days this week, so I'll get to them in a second. But yeah, I'm a little kind of like a torn here. That's on my other team, the Mariners. But going into the rest of the league, the Tampa Bay Rays, again, they're now 9-0 as we're recording this. They're still the only undefeated team left in baseball, and I don't know how long they're going to keep up with this, but the fact that they've been able to still do this, I mean, granted they've beaten the Tigers and the Nationals and the A's. That's probably why they're 9-0. I know nobody wants to say that, but don't tell the people in Tampa that. But that's kind of why they're to actually be the team they're supposed to beat. So we'll see. They play the Red Sox starting today, but it's going to be very interesting to see if they can keep it up. I mean, their pitch has been really solid. Their hit's been really solid. Like I said, their opponents haven't been very good. That's probably why they're now 9-0. But look, I mean, I'm liking what Randy Arozarena, I think that's how you say his name.
Yeah, one of the best leadoff hitters in baseball.
Yeah, so some people say he might be in the running for AL MVP. So if he keeps up what he's been doing, he's been on base for at least like each of those first 9 games. It's probably the reasons why also he's helping to set the tone early for the Rays. So their pitch has been really solid too. So we'll see if they can keep it up.
Yeah, don't forget about Yandy Diaz and Wander Franco either. Those two young hitters as well. As we talked about Lakeena over the last about 3 or 4 years, give manager Kevin Cash credit. You have solid baseball guys. They don't have any, just like the Cubs, they're the upgraded version of the Chicago Cubs. They don't have any power hitters in their lineup, but they play the game right. They're fundamentally sound, and they rarely beat themselves. And those teams are usually tough to eliminate come playoff time. I know they don't have a World Series. Before you yell at me, I know they gave it away to the Dodgers in the COVID year a couple of years ago. But those types of teams usually find their way into the postseason and have success every year.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll see if they can keep it up. I mean, like I said, like we were saying, I mean, the opponents haven't been very good, so of course they'll be able to take advantage of that. But that's what you do. Look, they can't help when they play in their schedule. So we'll see once they start playing the Yankees, once they start playing Houston. We'll see. We'll see if they can do that. Now, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Nelson Cruz 42 years old. Of course, he's now
He's still playing.
He's playing for the Padres now. He now has he got 6 RBIs in that Sunday night game against Atlanta. So it's interesting that the Padres have looked really good so far. Again, we've seen this the last few years with the Padres. We'll see if they can keep it up, but at least so far they've been okay.
Yeah, those bats came alive, Lakeena, over the weekend, taking the last 3 games of that 4-game series down there in hot Atlanta. After Orlando Arcia defeated them in the 9th inning on Thursday, the Padres woke up with those bats. You still have Juan Cruz, and you still have Manny Machado. I know Fernando Tatis will be due back later on in the year, but you still have Jake Cronenworth and some of the other guys that have big bats in the lineup. Don't forget Xander Bogaerts as well. So when those bats start to wake up for San Diego, they could be a problem. And don't forget about the starting pitcher as well. I think Darvish pitches tonight. I believe as they take on the Mets.
Yeah, he does. So so it's gonna be interesting to see if they can keep it up. Now the Diamondbacks they beat the Dodgers 3 out of 4. That's not. I did not make that up. They actually did beat them 3 out of 4. And I mean, I don't know what's they had 16 hits total, and in that route they route them 11-6. So I don't know what's going on right now. I know people are already Dodgers fans are already asking for Dave Roberts' head again.
It's not happening, folks.
It's like we're only about like a little over like almost 2 weeks in, but all folks kind of slow down. Didn't they lose 3 out of 4 to the Rockies? I'm talking about the Dodgers did or 2 out of 3, or they were swept by the Rockies last year. So I think people need to kind of just slow down a little bit. I mean, look, we've seen the weirdness that happened early on. I know that they split their series with the Dodgers in the opener, and they won. They split their the 2-gamer against the Padres. Again, I think people need to kind of just slow down a little bit. I mean, I don't see the Diamondbacks being right there. And this is not a giant situation where we're going to see them. I know they're not going to be there. I don't think in the end. Give them 1 month. I mean, look, if they're still there at the top a month from now, then we can talk. But right now, I'm not going to freak out. Oh my God, the Diamondbacks are leading the National League West, I should say. I don't think it's going to happen for that long.
Yeah, breaking news regarding baseball. Lakeena, the White Sox reliever Joe Kelly, he's been placed again on the 15-day injured list, and it's retroactive to April 9th with a right groin strain. So Joe Kelly, he struggled out to start the year. He did a good job on Saturday. It wasn't good enough, so he's going to be on the injured list for the White Sox for the next couple of weeks. But getting back to the Dodgers, we know expectations are very high with the Dodger fans. Of course, you have a lot of new players this year. Trace Thompson, if that last name sounds familiar. He's the younger brother of the Golden State Warriors, Klay Thompson. Of course, their father is Michael Thompson, the former basketball player, world champion, and now a broadcaster. But Trace Thompson is starting to get some playing time. You got former Cub Jason Hayward over there with the Dodgers now. He had his first home run the other night. And so you got a lot of new guys that are trying to fill in their roles. Remember, they got rid of a lot of their veterans last year, i.e. Justin Turner. I know you still had Max Muncy over there, but Gavin Lux is injured for the year. So you're still trying to find new guys, and they're trying to get comfortable in their new role. So Dave Roberts, they still have talent over there. They'll be fine, but that's just you don't want them to settle into long losing streaks. And this Dodgers team is too good enough to get into those long losing streaks.
Still very solid team, the Dodgers, even with all the departures and such. So, well, I'm sure they'll get it together. The Yankees, of course, they're the Yankees. I think Aaron Judge just hit another home run. I think
I saw it yesterday. Ouch.
Yeah, that was they went 2 out of 3 against the Baltimore. I guess 1 game was postponed, so they'll make that game up later on in the summer. But they looked really good. They've been pretty solid. They beat the Phillies 2 out of 3, of course, early last week and such. So I think the pitching is going to be the key here. I believe for them, and of course, Stan's going to do his thing. Of course, Judge is going to do his thing, and all the other guys, and Volpe and all the others. But it's to me, it's going to be the pitching. The pitching, because that's what's been killing the Yankees the last few years is their starting pitching. They really need to get their guys. Of course, we know Garrett Cole is going to do his thing. He had a really solid start over the weekend. But the other guys got to step up, and I'm hoping that they can get that because I think it's been a while since the Yankees have won the World Series. And I'm sure the New York people are getting restless.
2009. Wow.
Yeah, it's been that almost 14, 13 years now. If we're not counting this year, yeah, but people are getting restless there in the Bronx, and I think people want to they want to get that, be right there and bring it back to the World Series. So we'll see if this is a team to do it. We'll see.
Yeah, speaking of the AL East team, the Toronto Blue Jays said they swept the Anaheim Angels out there on the West Coast over the weekend. I don't know if you had a chance to check out yesterday's game, Lakeena. I had a chance to watch it after the White Sox. Anaheim battled back twice. They tied the game in the ninth after Mike Trout strikes out with the bases loaded. Hunter Renfroe comes through, but before then, Shohei Ohtani gets hit by a pitch, so they loaded the bases again, and Hunter Renfroe comes through for the Angels and knocks into to tie the game. Toronto comes back with two of their own at the top of the 10th. The Angels get one back, but Mike Trout disappeared again in the clutch. I'm not going to sit here and say this is the beginning of the end for the Angels, but remember that around this time last year, the Angels got out to a hot start, and then they had that ugly series in the first, I believe it was the first weekend in May last year against Philadelphia. They blew that getaway game, and then things started going downhill. They fired Joe Madden, and then things went off the rails. I'm not saying it's going to be the beginning of the end for Anaheim, but they got to turn it around here quickly. Give him the status of Shohei Ohtani. He's a free agent after this season.
And he might be traded too before the trade deadline, especially if they go to a bad start. I actually saw highlights of this game, and because I was like, wait, huh? And then like, wait, what? Wait, they tied it, and so someone got hit by a pitch, and I guess Chapman gave up another who hit Ohtani. So it was a really weird game. I guess it was one of those games where you kind of like you blinked, you missed something else. If you try to turn from it, and you missed something else too. And the weird thing is that the game didn't even last that long. It only lasted a little over 3.5 hours. So it wasn't even, it didn't feel long. So, I guess, just such. So it was because last year a game like this would have been easy to be about like 5.5 hours. So, the fact that it was only about a little under 3.5, I think that was kind of like shows you that, maybe those pitch clocks is a good thing. But yeah, I mean, the Angels, I don't know. I mean, we talked about buddy Chris Gilman, of course, our girl, Christine, Manica's fiance, who's becoming a really great friend of ours. It's gonna be interesting to see, especially if they do get this long slide. That's gonna be the key here, and I think Trout. Where was Trout? I mean, he had a couple of chances to try to break the game open. That didn't happen. So you got to give you'll give Toronto credit for kind of like staying calm and being able to go through with this on the clutch hits late.
Yeah, as respect for Toronto to compete this year in the AL East and get back to the playoffs. So they went there last year before losing to Seattle in the wild card series. But we all know that Toronto's a dangerous team offensively. They just had to get it done with the pitching. Speaking of one more AL East team as we wrap up the weekend that was in MLB, the Boston Red Sox, they sweep away at the Detroit Tigers. I don't know how much we take them seriously. We'll see, as you say, in about a month from now. Now going to the NL. The New York Mets take 2 out of 3 from the Miami Marlins. They failed to sweep them yesterday, but they're playing good ball. Now back to the American League. We mentioned the Twins. They're taking on the White Sox as we speak, but they take 2 out of 3 from the Houston Astros. The Astros are off to a struggling start, as we said. They could do that now without Jose Altuve. And back to the National League, the Brewers are starting to took care of the Cardinals this weekend.
Yeah, so I'm not worried about the Cardinals. I know that some people are kind of supposed to say those are kind of starting to freak out, but I think look. I mean, I'm sure they'll figure it out. Look, they have a lot of players. They got guys that are going to be Adam Rivera's going to be retiring, so you got to think that maybe I'm sure they've got to same thing with the Dodgers. They got to acclimate some new guys in that lineup. So I'm sure they'll figure it out too. I mean, that Cardinals team is too talented, so we'll see what happens. I know the Brewers have actually looked really good too. So, we'll see what happens with that. Now, real quick, as we go through the schedule, of course, got the Sox and the Twins, going on right now. They start their series. The Yankees and the Guardians, that should be a fun one. That game 1 of that series starts.
Yeah, Cleveland got a big win yesterday in extra innings against your Mariners.
Yeah, I know. I wish about that. Oakland and Baltimore. Baltimore hoping to bounce back from that series here, where they had a couple of chances to win that series against the Yankees. Houston and Pittsburgh. We'll see how Pittsburgh mindset is. Boston, Tampa Bay, Miami, and Philadelphia, San Diego, and the Mets. That should be a fun one there too.
Yeah, and other series starting tonight, Cincinnati at Atlanta. The Atlanta trying to bounce back after losing 3 or 4 to the Padres at home. Of course, you mentioned Lakeena and Sid and the Mariners. They'll take on the Cubs tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday afternoon. So we'll see what happens there. Kansas City, the Royals, they took 2 out of 3 from San Francisco over the weekend. They're stay on the road. They'll take on the Texas Rangers. The St. Louis Cardinals will take on the Colorado Rockies. The Washington Nationals will take on the Anaheim Angels. The Brewers will take on the Diamondbacks. And the Dodgers and Giants will do battle for the first time this year by the Bay. And so that starts later tonight. And other series that are starting for this week, the Marlins and the Phillies will do battle starting tomorrow. Detroit will be at Toronto. And those are the series that start tomorrow. So those are the series going on Monday through Wednesday of this week.
All right, we're going to take a really quick break as we wrap things up here. Of course, we're talking about OBJ signing with the Ravens. What does that mean for one Mr. Lamar Jackson? And also, speaking of giving the football thing, of course, Jon Rahm wins the Masters. But how an all-pro Super Bowl champion tight end almost sort of jinxed his chances. And, of course, that and a whole lot more. We got Old School TV Monday and such. So a lot to do still in this last half hour. Coming up next, Lakeena McGee, Sydney Brown, Second Team Sports on Sports of Chicago, NFL, golf, and a whole lot more coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver. I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Monday Fun Edition. We're live in Little Cover right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You can follow yours truly on Twitter in the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
We have less than 25 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you want to hit us up in the comments section, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Typing your questions and comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you.
Yes. And let's start with this, OBJ to the Ravens. I was, watching the Masters, look at the NBA stuff. Actually, I just saw the fight between Rudy Gobert and Kyle Anderson, who has been Rudy Gobert has been suspended for the game tomorrow, by the way, I think it's the Lakers.
Not a surprise.
Yes, they made that official. Yeah, they made that official to Akon Woj. But going back to OBJ, he decided to sign a 1-year deal worth $18 million. To the Ravens, and I don't think anybody had the Ravens, as kind of like the parts. Some people said the Jets. I heard I think a couple people said the Bills. I think a couple other teams as well. And it's going to be a lot of incentives. I think the base salary is going to be $15 million, and of course, some of the other incentives and such. Now, if you saw, on his Instagram, he was talking to one Lamar Jackson. And again, all this has been going on there. Take that how you will. Now, I know that, Ian Rappaport, of course, in NFL Network said, Baltimore's QB. I'm talking about OBJ. But let's be honest, OBJ is not coming in to play for Tyler Huntley. No shade to Tyler Huntley, who I adore very much. I loved him when he was at Utah. But I'm sorry. Yeah, it looks like Lamar is coming back. And, look, he's get that extra weapon that they desperately need over there in Baltimore. What do you think about this signing, Sid?
I think it's a great signing for Baltimore. As we talked about at various points last year, Lakeena, Baltimore is one of the last teams we mentioned that can use OBJ services. I know we mentioned Buffalo first, and we thought the Packers at the time, but now with Rodgers presumably moving on to the Jets, they'll probably get done by draft night. But as you mentioned, OBJ was rumored to go over to the Jets, but we all know this old phrase, when money talks, BS runs the marathon. So they played a part of it too. I know it's a 1-year, $18 million deal. $15 million of that is guaranteed. So that's a sweet deal for OBJ coming off a year of a torn ACL. I saw a clip. I don't know if you caught this morning, Lakeena. I saw a clip with Damian Woody and Stephen A. Smith on that First Take ripoff show. And Damian Woody simply put it, that OBJ was talking to Lamar Jackson and people in back channels and within that organization. Why would you sign with Baltimore to play with Tyler Huntley or somebody else? That just wasn't making any sense. Even though OBJ, I believe, is 31 years old now, he's trying to get some of that last money before he ages out. And so, why would you sign with Baltimore knowing that Lamar Jackson may not be there? That it makes no sense. So I think that relationship can work out. Will it be Lamar Jackson's last year in Baltimore? That remains to be seen. But as Damian Woody put it, why would you go over there knowing that if you knew all pain that Lamar Jackson's not going to be there? Let's get real, folks.
Right, yeah, I think they're on the same. They have the same representation, not representation because we know Lamar doesn't have an agent, but he does kind of have that, the little back channels. We know that, he thinks that OBJ thinks a world of Lamar Jackson. So I'm wondering, like you said, he's not going to sign with the Ravens, kind of shocking a lot of folks without knowing that Lamar isn't coming back. Even if it's just got to be like a 1-year thing, play the franchise tag, see if you can produce, see if you can stay healthy. And maybe now with OBJ now being there, you have a little bit more incentive to play. So, I'm wondering that it'll only be a matter of time before they figure all this out. Maybe they do a 2-year deal and maybe the 1 year is an option, or maybe they do a 3-year deal and that's that 3 years option with a lot of incentives. And this will be kind of like a prove it, 2 years or 1 or 2 years or whatever. So I think for me, this is a great signing. OBJ still has a Super Bowl ring to his credit, of course, with the Rams. This is sort of another way to try to get that extra, the other ring and another ring. So, like you said, I think, look, there's no way that he's going to sign to play with. Again, no shade to Tyler Huntley. I know he's got a Pro Bowl to his resume. We can write about that forever. But he's not coming to play. To play with him. He's coming to play with Jackson. I think they will figure it out. And hopefully, maybe Lamar, OBJ can kind of be like that big brother to Lamar and say, look, I know you don't want your money, but you need to do a couple prove it things first. So do the prove it deal for maybe like 2 or 3 years. See, you're still young. He's only 25, so he's still
Yeah.
kind of like right there in that range. So again, do the prove it thing. Do a 2 or 3 year deal. Then maybe after you get the bigger money afterwards.
Yeah, like you said, Lamar is still young enough that he can do it so long as he stays healthy for next season and beyond the next couple of years. He's still young enough to get that long term deal because you know as well as I do, Lakeena, along you guys listening and watching us, that when you become the age of 30 in the NFL, you're a senior citizen age. More coaches than not will cut you based on your age because of all the wear and tear and the mileage on your body playing that tough game. So Lamar Jackson, as long as he stays healthy and put team goals ahead of individual goals, he'll be fine. But for Baltimore, they need to restructure their defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know they're putting weapons around Lamar Jackson, rightfully so, but they need to restructure that defense.
Yeah, hopefully that'll be a priority for the draft coming up in a couple of weeks. Hopefully that'll be kind of like the thing where because there are a lot of defensive guys, so we'll see. Especially since they lost Calais Campbell and a couple other guys too, so they're definitely going to be defense. Definitely going to be the priority there. So we'll see what happens. It's probably going to have to build through that. Let me see here. Any other NFL nuggets? I know we got a couple of weeks before the draft, so
I know that Carolina's looking at Bryce Young, and I know he passed one of their 1,000 Wonderlic tests the other day.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a foregone conclusion that Carolina is going to pick him, but he has the upper hand right now for the reports that I read over the weekend.
Well, yeah, and Will Levis. I know something just came out. But I think he's talking to somebody. I forgot. Hello. He's talking to Tennessee. So I saw that report early this morning. So we'll see because they're looking for kind of like the future. So we'll see if he can kind of be that guy. So yeah, I know CJ Stroud. I know he visits. He also visited the Panthers as well a couple of weeks ago. So still a lot to kind of figure out. So no one really knows for sure what's going to happen. I guess we got a couple of weeks beforehand. So it'll be interesting to see. Like, I'm at this point where I'm kind of like, let's just get to the draft already. Because all this stuff about, and also the Bears, I guess, they may take Jalen Carter after all. That's what I guess, the new mock drafts. I know Jon Robinson's names have been brought up too a lot lately, especially with the Bears. Like, I don't know if Ryan Poles wants to pick a running back, especially that high still with 9.
You can get those in the later rounds. It's proven that you can get good ones at the later rounds, the 3rd and 4th rounds.
Right. So it's going to be interesting to see, do they trade back to maybe get some more picks in? So we'll see what happens with that. But it's going to be silly. I know the Cardinals. The Cardinals are in the top 5 too. So a lot of people say they may want their pick as well. So they might, they got a new brass over there with Arizona. So be interested to see what they decide to do. So yeah, a lot of being a win though still. It'll be interesting to see what some of these teams try to do. But the Cardinals are at 3, so you gotta put a lot of teams are trying to trade up for them. So they're in a kind of the same situation that the Bears were in. So we'll see what the Cardinals do.
Speaking of the Bears being at the number 9 position in the first round, if they do not go after Jalen Carter out of Alabama, would you just take the best player available? Because the reason why I ask this, because the Bears, it looks like they're going to go defensive heavy in this draft, and rightfully so, because their defense was terrible last year. They couldn't generate any quarterback sacks consistently last year. You still need an offensive tackle or two. I think Ryan Poles
probably 3.
But Ryan Poles, I think, is going to pick up a couple of those in the draft. But you need some defensive ends, i.e. pass rushers. And don't forget, you need a couple of guys in your secondary, too. I know we talked about the development of Jaquan Brisker. Eddie Jackson was back last year. I forgot who was the other one, the young secondary. Kyle Gordon, thank you.
Kyle Gordon.
Kyle Gordon. All the outside of Jackson. Gordon and Brisker made some strides last year, even though they were rookies. So, but you still need a couple of defensive backs. Jalen Johnson, he's been injured the last couple years. And even though he's good when he's healthy, you can't depend on him. So, I think you'll probably pick up a defensive back or two in the later rounds. But they need to be focusing heavy on the offensive line and picking up some pass rushers.
Yeah, I think that's going to be kind of the thing with Ryan Poles. I know there were a couple of mock drafts that had them perhaps maybe taking Paris Johnson, talk about the Bears, who protected CJ Stroud's blind side over at Ohio State. I know he was all I think he was all Big Ten, I think, the last couple of years. So I know they do need O-line help, but does he fit that scheme that Luke Getsky, is playing, wants to play? So that's going to be kind of like the thing here. I know his name's been floated around. I know a couple other O-line guys. There was a guy from West Virginia who plays O-line. I forgot his name. It was at the top of my head. He was all Big 12. I forgot. It might come to me, but it's interesting to see like what does polls do, because for me this sort of like is going to be the thing where like I'm not going to say this is going to be a make or break draft for Mr. Polls, but you wonder though that I'm not expecting them to go to the Super Bowl or nothing like that, but at the very least, kind of sort of be like competitive. I think that's going to be kind of like the thing. You got to make some smart decisions, and so far they have not done that.
And your foundation is still being set right now, so that's why I think it's not a make it break it draft, but this is the most important draft because it sets your foundation, what your team identity is going to be. Like I said about the defense, there was no identity last year. They got scored on just about on every possession, and we knew it was a rebuilding year as Ryan Post got rid of the Matt Nagy guys that weren't useful to the team anymore. So your foundation is still being set right now. Now you got some of the parts via trades and free agency during the offseason to help out Justin Fields. It's now the time to build that defense and get some offensive line helping him. Your foundation starts on the offensive and defensive lines, and this draft, Ryan Post needs to address that.
Oh, Dante Stills, that's his name. He's a defensive lineman for West Virginia. I've heard his name. Yeah, it just came to me. But yeah, I've heard his name a couple of times. I know he was all a Big 12 or second team all Big 12. I know there are some people that said maybe that Bears should probably go after him. I know. Doug Nestor is another one that who is the old lineman I was referring to. That a lot of people thought that maybe he could probably help out the Bears too. I've seen some people say that. So it's gonna be interesting to see what they do here, because I could see polls perhaps maybe trading back again and perhaps maybe getting another get some more picks and try to get like the players that he wants. Now, if they do decide to stay at 9, now it'll be interesting if Jalen Carter's still there at 9. With all this, I know all the legal stuff has happened to it and such, but I know some people will take a chance on him. Will Anderson, I know a couple of our buddies they really want him. He's not gonna last 9. He's not gonna last till 9, folks.
I would not be surprised if Detroit took him.
Right, Detroit. That's probably where you might go to, because a lot of the mock drafts have him going to Detroit. So, and they really need him to kind of like compete on the opposite side with Aiden Hutchinson. So that's gonna be very interesting. A little front 7 there should that happen. But yeah. Like I said, we'll find out in a couple of weeks, but yeah, I'm ready for the draft to be over and done with, because all the mock drafts, all the the meetings and stuff like that, all the Wonder Lake test or whatever they call it these days, it's just a little bit silly. But I'm kind of over. I just want to let's get to the draft and see where these guys are going to be going.
Yeah, we haven't seen too much of this yet. Like we'll see it close to the draft as we talk about it every year leading up to the draft. It's lying season around the NFL. We worked out this guy. We don't like him. They ended up taking him. Oh, we don't like him. Another team's move on. Oh, he's a piece of crap. Then you ended up taking him and passing up on him. And so, yeah.
He's a horrible human being. Yeah, well, yeah. He's like, he voted for, no, I'm not going to say go political, but he hates like, pizza or whatever, some silliness like that. So we've heard it all over the years, especially. So, you just see, but yeah, like I said, I'm ready for the draft to be over with, to be on now, and let's get it done.
Yeah, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. Before we get to Old School TV Monday, a couple of other items to get to you guys. Let's do that golf, Lakeena. The Masters wrapped up yesterday. It was dominated, unfortunately, by bad weather. But Jon Rahm comes out on top with a -12 score to capture the 2023 title. Brooks Koepka made a run at the last second. Phil Mickelson, who many people didn't expect anything from, including yours truly, he made a run. He finished third with a -8. Russell Henley and Patrick Reed tied for fourth at a -7. Tiger Woods, he did make the cut on Saturday, Lakeena, but as we talked about before we started this broadcast today, if you paid attention to his rounds on Saturday, last year was terrible. He could barely walk. This year, it looked like he was starting to improve a little bit, but once before the heavy rain started to pick up, they had to postpone the second round. He couldn't walk, Lakeena, and of course on Sunday morning yesterday, before they resumed play, he announced to the media and everybody else via social media that he would withdraw himself from the competition, and he'll get ready for the next event coming up next month, Lakeena. As I said before, without Tiger, not too many people are going to watch. and the ratings did prove that they were down from last year, but it's the second best Masters rating, Ryan, since Tiger won it back in 2019.
Yeah, you'll take that if you're CBS. Well, I'll start with Tiger first, get that out the way. But yeah, I saw
Mm-hmm.
him. Those couple. I watched it on my phone. They had the Masters app on my phone, and I saw how he was. I saw it on Thursday. He was like wincing in pain. He did not look good at all, and the rain kind of just made it worse. They had to stop for a little bit. Then they started going back, and they had.
I saw it on Saturday. Yeah, and I got
stop,
that same feel. Like, yeah.
Yeah, about halfway, a little over halfway, just about halfway through. They stopped play. It was kind of the marathon. They call it the Marathon Masters on from yesterday. And I think that's kind of what happened because they had to play like 30 holes and such. But I'll get to that. But yeah, I mean, he didn't look really good. I know he said he was very disappointed because he loves playing there. The Patriots love him there. So hopefully, I'm sure hopefully he'll be in shape for the PGA Championship coming up at Oak Hill this year, next month. So we'll see if he'll be able to play there. Maybe he'll be a little bit recovered enough so he'll be able to play a full 4 rounds. Now, going into the Masters itself, I mean, look, Jon Rahm was down by 2 to Brooks Koepka. Actually, the turning point was near that last hole, the third round, if you remember. He had a birdie putt. Koepka had a par putt. Koepka missed his par putt, but Rahm made his birdie. So that was a 2-shot swing there, and that's how he ended up trailing by 2 as we got to it. And he actually, I want to play off this tease real quick. The opening hole, Zach Ertz, of course, the tight end, of course, Super Bowl champion with the Eagles, now plays for the Cardinals. He and his wife, of course, the wonderful Julie Ertz, who's a great soccer player, and also John and his wife Kelly. They're all both good friends. They're actually neighbors, in Arizona. He actually texted Rahm right before he teed off and said, "Oh yeah, that first hole looks really easy." He went on to go double bogey that hole, but good news is he was able to settle down. He made some big shots. He had a couple of shots. He had that birdie shot at 12 that kind of changed it around and such. Once he got the lead, he didn't look back. That shot at 14, the birdie kind of slammed the door there. So just a great showing by Rahm. His second major. He already has a PGA Championship to his credit. Phil Mickelson made things interesting too. He has 65, which actually, believe it or not, that's his best round at the Masters. He actually has 3 of these titles. So the fact that he was able to make it interesting for a little bit, I think that was actually pretty cool. Now I know some people would say why did he go to Amanda Renner at CBS? Apparently, I guess she did ask him to talk to her, but he politely declined. So he ended up doing a Sky Sports News instead. So that's what happened there. Of course, the LIV guys and whatnot. Of course, 3 of the top 5 guys were all LIV guys. Of course, Mickelson's one, Koepka's one, Patrick, of course, tied for 5th. The other one, 2, George Spieth. They're not, but unfortunately, our girl Christine's guy, Victor Hovland, of course, didn't have a good showing the last.
I was going to ask you about him because we were talking about him on Friday.
Yeah.
He was in the first group top 5 in the leaderboard. He just petered out.
Yeah, didn't have a good showing in that second round. Of course, he did make a little bit of a run, but he didn't really have a good showing there. He ended up shooting at 74. But I want to give a shout out to Heath Gates, who is from California, who's from San Francisco, All-American, both academic and golf All-American over at Pepperdine. Had a great shot at 16, who Vern Lundquist got a chance to call. So I'm glad he's still doing the major golf still. So that was a really great moment for him. He's actually going to be back at top 12 and ties. So he finished in the top 10. So he got a nice little check there. And also he's going to be going to the Masters again next year. So a nice show for the Gate. Of course, his parents immigrated from India. Now going back to Rahm for a second, he's now the number 1 player in the world. He and Scheffler. Scheffler actually had a finish strong too. Didn't have a good third round, but actually came back, had a solid final round, and he did have a good second round, I should say, but had a solid weekend. Of course, finished in the top 10. But that was a really cool moment there with him. Talking about Jon Rahm, he actually clinched the Masters. This is actually the 3rd time that he becomes a 4th Spaniard to win the Masters, joining Seve Ballesteros, Jose Maria Olazabal, of course, Sergio. He also, clinched it on the 40th anniversary of when Seve won his last Masters, which is in '83. If you guys remember, he actually held off Ben Crenshaw to win that. I remember I actually saw clips of that on YouTube. That was like the things I did during the pandemic. Watch the old Masters clips on YouTube. That was one thing I did a few years ago. But that was a great Masters. Also, this actually would have been Seve's 67th birthday. Because remember, he wasn't even 60 when he passed away all those years ago. So, But I know Rahm said that was his idol. I know Jose Mourinho thought was another one of his idols. They had that nice embrace after he came off 18, after he clinched it. That was a really sweet moment there for him. And it was really cool to see him and his wife Kelly. I talk about Rahm, his wife Kelly, who was a stand-up athlete in her own right. She was a big time I think javelin thrower. And I think she also did the high jump too. I think she won a Pac-12 title in the javelin throw. So when she didn't know I think neither one knew at the time how big Jon Rahm was going to be. So the fact that he made his run, actually able to bounce back from that first opening hole mishap with the double bogey, he was able to kind of bounce back and win. And now he's one of the best golfers in the world. And just to get tip your cap off to him.
Yeah, congratulations to him. Before we move on to hockey, I wanted to ask you because I did watch, as I said, I did watch some of this. Majority of it was Saturday morning before the big rainstorm came. I forgot Andrew Catalan was interviewing this golfer at Fort. He was working at the 14th hole. I forgot who that golfer was, but do you like golfers being interviewed while they're playing?
Yeah,
because I didn't mind it. I'll be honest with you, I didn't mind it at all. I know some of your traditionals may lose your minds, but I didn't mind it at all.
They've been doing it the last few years, actually. I know Colin Morikawa, I think he did it for like the first couple of rounds. He actually had finished, I think, like tied for like 15th, I think, 14th or like 16th, I think. But I like it. I think it's a great element. You want to get the younger golfers, younger folks tuned into golf. So this is like a nice way to kind of get the kind of mindset of the guys that come in. I know that some traditionalists. I know I saw Johnny Miller who was a 2-time U.S. Open champ. I know he's not a big fan of it, but it also has a British Open champion too, to his credit. But it is what it is. I mean, look, you want to get those guys' mindset. And some people use something they could do like they do it in Phoenix for the Phoenix Open, where you got crowds, going wild and such. So some people said maybe they should bring that type of element to all the courses. So look, I don't mind the in-course interviews. I think if anything else, it kind of like adds a little bit of freshness to it. You kind of know what their mindset is going in, and as long as the golfers are okay with it, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I didn't mind it at all as a viewer, a casual viewer of golf. So, like you said, it's a new element that you can try out and bring younger viewers to watch your sport. So that's something that golf needs to do right now. I know baseball's been trying to do that the last couple of years. Hopefully they could do that. You won't see it too much in basketball. I know that players might double. You'll see that a little bit come playoff time, but basically golf and baseball need to do some more things to up their viewership with younger viewers. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. A couple of minutes that we have left. Lakeena, I know you like to give a salute as we do that hockey to the 2022-23 Boston Bruins, as the Stanley Cup playoffs will start next week.
Yeah, so they break the record for the most points scored in the regular season, and 62nd game of the season, tying the record for like the 5 straight Bruins home games that ended it at. Of course, they had that win against the Devils. I actually saw that game on ABC. Not a lot of watched that game, unfortunately, so I actually was sort of having to ponder to watch it. But I'm hoping that they can win the Stanley Cup. I mean, it'd be a shame to break all these records, these point records, and win the President's Trophy and not even win. Because I know people will say on the East is the Bruins and everyone else, but I think, look, like I said, I talked about Carolina, I've talked about the Devils. Devils played very close to them at one point. Look, I'm not gonna sit here and say that they're gonna do it, but I think, look, could the Maple Leafs have something to say about it? Could the Lightning? Look, they haven't gone anywhere. Also, too, the Rangers, they might have something to say about it as well. Some of the other playoff spots have not been official, because they're still battling it out. But I think the Bruins could look. We've seen where things happen in NHL playoffs.
Yes.
So, what do you think?
Yeah, as we said all year long, because you have the great regular season doesn't guarantee you a Stanley Cup, and we saw that now. I think this year would be 10 years ago. Remember the Blackhawks in that shortened season had the greatest start, to the season there. I think it was 21-24 game without a loss streak, but they ended up winning the Stanley Cup. Remember, they almost got eliminated in that second round against the Detroit Dead Wings, but weird things can happen in the playoffs. I think those players know that. Hopefully their fans know that. Other people start noticing too. And you mentioned the Eastern Conference is stacked. It looks like Washington is not going to be involved in this year. I think Pittsburgh may be one of the last teams to get in, along with the New York Islanders. But the Eastern Conference is stacked, so we'll see what happens. But it's going to be a very interesting playoffs this year, especially in the East, and both sides, but more particularly in the East.
Yeah. Well, the East too, yeah, especially because I think it's like I know people want to say it's Boston's to lose, but I feel like it's kind of like this little log jam here, with all the teams we mentioned. So I think it's gonna be interesting to see. Like, it's gonna be about the draws, especially. You get that hot goalie too. We see in the playoffs all the time in the Stanley Cup. So on the West side, of course, I think it's gonna be between. I think it's this point. It's like it's one spot left. I think it's between the Jets, the Predators, and the Flames. So we just see who gets that. But those last,
it should be the Flames, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets get it.
Right? Yeah, it would be.
And the Flames had a bad loss to the Blackhawks last week.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. So that might not help them. But also, give a shout out to Connor McDavid. He hit the 150-point mark, and a couple of days ago in San Jose, he's the youngest player at 26 and 85 at the time to record the many points in a single season. Since Mario Lemieux did it back in 89, also too. Steve Iverson also did the same thing too, also 89 too. So yeah, he's probably gonna get the MVP. I think I'd be shocked, I say, if Connor McDavid.
Right. Same here.
So yeah, so we just see what happens with that.
Yeah, same here. And like I said, for Edmonton, hopefully they'll show a stronger version of themselves once the playoffs start, because I think the West is wide open.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think it's really going to be like, I don't want to say the Avs, can't do it, or the Knights, but yeah, it's basically open season in the West. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Now, real quick with the sports media news, anything of note that we need to talk about before we go to Old School TV Monday?
Not really. Where was that much important? We'll cover it on Friday.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we'll try to get that in. All right. So, Sid, what's Old School TV Monday today?
When cable TV was cable TV back in its infancy, the Nickelodeon channel was often popping, as the kids would say. And I'm talking about the flagship show that saved the network, Double Dare.
Yes.
Double Dare was an American game show which two teams compete to win cash and prizes by answering trivia questions and completing messy stunts known as physical challenges. It originally ran from 1986 to 1993, with a revival in 2000 and the most recent run from 2018 to 2019. It was hosted by Mark Summers. The program originally premiered on Nickelodeon on October 6, 1986, and as his first game show. A continuation for syndication premiered on February 22, 1988, later revamped as Super Sloppy Double Dare on January 22, 1989. The program had a short run on Fox as Family Double Dare, airing from April 3rd to July 23rd of 1988. Nickelodeon continued the franchise with Family Double Dare on October 6, 1990. The original series ended in February of 1993. The series was revived, hosted by Jason Harris, which entitled Double Dare 2000, which aired from January to November of that year. A second revival of the series was hosted by Lisa Koshy, featuring Mark Summers, aired from June 25th of 2018 to December 20th of 2019. Double Dare saw many adjustments in his schedule and titling throughout his run. Almost immediately after his debut, Double Dare had more than triple viewership from Nickelodeon's afternoon lineup, becoming the most watched originally daily program on cable television.
Yeah, it was getting big ratings too. I think it was getting like just up there with some of the other shows that were aired on the network, and that was one of the first shows I watched when we got cable. So I actually saw Double Dare on my TV screen. I'm like, oh crap, I can't watch it because we don't have cable. Once we got cable, that was one of the first. That was like the first when I got back from school. The first thing I did was to watch Double Dare, and it was just as sloppy as I thought it was. And look, you had two teams of two, two teams. Sometimes they had Celebrity Double Dare. Sometimes they would have the Family Double Dare and such. They have
they did an NBA special edition too. You can catch it on YouTube.
I remember seeing that, and I think I just saw that on YouTube recently. And it was fun. It was messy, but look, it was just good. Good entertainment. I think people getting who didn't want to get slimed and had slushy stuff dumped on him, and all that other gross stuff. And Mark Summers still looks great. That he was actually one of my first crushes. I'm not afraid to admit that. So. He's a very handsome man, even you got to admit that's it. But I think his charisma helped too with the stuff as well. I think having him there, kind of like led it. That's why that 2001, I don't even really we won't talk about that because that was just a terrible revamp. But they didn't do the newer one. They tried, but it just wasn't the same. I know they did get Mark Summers involved, which was smart, but it didn't really. It didn't feel kind of. It just wasn't really the same.
Yeah, that's you took the words right out of my mouth again, Lakeena, when they revamped it. And they had that new host. Nothing against the new guy, but Mark Summers was in. He was energetic. He was engaging. He was fun. The kids liked him. The audience liked him. Everybody liked him. So The original Double Dare, be honest, Lakeena, I knew about the competition, all that. I was just waiting to see who got slimed. That was it.
That was the best part about it, right?
Yeah, I was waiting for that. That was it.
Yeah, we just want to see who got slimed. That was probably like the best part about it. And I believe the first season, I think it's on Paramount Plus. So if I think they have, I don't know if they have the whole run, but I know they have the first like couple of seasons on Paramount Plus. So if you guys have Paramount Plus, you guys can check that out. Subscribe to it and check out some of the games and bring back some memories. But yeah, I mean, I think the cream pies and such. So yeah, just it was great family entertainment. I know that they've had like different versions of it. Of course, he had like other like Double Dare-esque type shows that didn't really do too well. He couldn't beat the original Double Dare. So I think that's to the test of time to this day still.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Double Dare remains Nickelodeon's longest running game show. In 2001, TV Guide ranked the show number 29 on this list of 50 greatest game shows of all time. The program has been nominated for 2 Daytime Emmy Awards, 2 Kids' Choice Awards, and won a Cable Ace Award in 1989.
Yeah, so I think that definitely shows that no matter what, I think even if you're having a bad day in school or whatever, and even some of the political stuff that started happening, kind of like dominating the airways, Double Dare was kind of like good. I don't want to say mindless because it did ask trivia questions, but it was sort of like kind of like escapist TV, as they say, kind of like escape from all the reality, and just to kind of have this good, good entertainment, just kind of like just take your worries out and just take the cares away.
Yeah, exactly. So our old school TV Monday salute to the longest running cable game show of all time, Double Dare.
Where's the slime when you need it?
I know.
Large slime. Well, anyway, maybe it's a good thing because you got to go to work in a little bit. But yeah, Keenan McGee on the Twitter, and then Keenan's going to get on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKID80, SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Excuse me. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. War Media Podcast on all social. No, good grief, I can't talk today. On all podcast platforms, including iHeartRadio. Now I deserve that sign. We have some.
Yes, because I think you got slime there in the background. But, on that note, you can follow. You can of course.
Yeah, speaking of War Media, follow War Media at WAR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. Of course, go your War Media Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts and such. Of course, you can catch our show and all our shows on Roku TV. Of course, you'll celebrate with the squad. You can catch our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas. What's up, cuz? I don't know what. I'm sure they're going to be on tonight. I'm sure, but that's 6 o'clock. I'm sure they'll recap all the stuff in NBA. I'm sure they'll be talking about the Gobert Anderson scuffle. I'm sure they'll have a lot to say about that. Also, too, we're going to have a couple of big surprises here. We want to give you guys for a little bit before we go. We're going to be doing a live remote, for just in time for the draft. I forgot where we're going to be at, but I'll check it real quick. But yeah, it's going to be on Thursday night. That Thursday of the draft on the on the 27th on the NFL draft, where we had our live remote, so you can catch us up. You can get some ice cold Miller Lite. Also, we're gonna of course we're gonna have some fun watching the draft and such. Who goes number 1 and who the Bears pick at 9, and also too for us, we're actually gonna be doing a special NBA playoff edition of our round table. Of course, we're talking about the NBA playoffs. Whether or not the Bulls make it, well, we're gonna do it regardless. But yeah. So who's gonna be a part of that? Well, you just have to tune in to find out on Friday at 1. But still tune in at 12 too.
Yeah, we'll be celebrating the Bulls' playoff berth, or we'll be giving them their pink slips and league cards and dirt on their coffin. You'll have to come back Friday and find out.
Absolutely. So enjoy all the sports. You still got baseball. I know with the basketball being over. You still got hockey divisions. I know there's still a couple of playoff spots to be had, and of course baseball and such. Getting to that going too. So still lots of sports to watch. So no worries there. So for Sid, I'm Lakeena. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Go Sox! Holla!